According to the FAA, there have been 105 stowaways since 1947. Of those 105 people, 80 died and 25 survived, translating to at least a 76% death rate. But as of today, it is still attempted, most frequently by people in desperate situations. Here are some of those stories. But before we get started, if you enjoy these videos, please drop a like and subscribe and share this with your friend that's an adrenaline junkie. Or maybe don't send it to that friend. All right, let's start with Pardeep Saini. In October of 1996, two brothers from India snuck onto a British Airways plane and attempted to enter the UK as stowaways. It was a Boeing 747 that flew from New Delhi to Heathrow over 40,000 feet in altitude. The two brothers fled from India after being accused of having links to a Sikh military group fighting for the independence of their homeland. In desperation, the men were introduced to a people smuggler who offered to help them get into Great Britain. After paying 150 British pounds, they were then incorrectly told that they could get into the luggage compartment from the wheel well bay. Pardeep Saini, the older of the two at 22 years old, said of the wheels after takeoff, "As the wheels came up, they were glowing hot. They were burning us. The wheelhouse was shaking. It was like an earthquake. My whole body started to feel numb." The undercarriage of the plane reached temperatures of negative 60 degrees Celsius during the 10-hour flight, as well as extremely low oxygen levels at 40,000 feet. Both brothers had likely succumbed very quickly to the extreme conditions, and when the landing gear opened in preparation for the aircraft's descent, Pardeep's younger brother fell 2,000 feet above an abandoned building in Richmond, Surrey. His body was recovered 5 days later. Just hours after touchdown, astonished airport staff found Pardeep Saini staggering on the runway in a state of total confusion. Pardeep claims to have passed out shortly after and remembers nothing until he woke up in a British detention center and was told his brother was dead. Pardeep initially faced deportation, but after a lengthy battle, was allowed to stay in the UK. As of 2019, he is married with 2 young sons and actually works for a catering company at Heathrow Airport. Before I move on to the second story, if you believe that somebody can survive at 40,000 feet with basically no oxygen and negative 60 degrees Celsius, can you let me know in the comments? As an aviator and a military pilot and a test pilot, I have no possible idea how this happens. So if you're a doctor or you know how this works, can you let me know in the comments? Because I have no idea how this kid survived at all. And there's more coming up just like it. All right, the second one. On June 3rd, 1969, at 17 years old, Armando Ramirez and his 16-year-old friend Jorge Blanco stowed away in an 8-hour flight from Havana to Madrid. The two had long dreamed of escaping Cuba and staked out the airport to find a flight that was not headed to another communist country. They stuffed their ears with cotton, waited till the plane was taxiing, and sprinted towards it from the fence. Perez slowed, having doubts, but Ramirez dragged him along, afraid to make the journey on his own. Perez climbed into the left wheel well and Ramirez took the right. As the plane took off, Perez fell onto the runway and though he survived, was imprisoned. Ramirez managed to hang on until the compartment closed. Even though the inside of the plane was completely black, deafening, and terrifying, Ramirez was completely overjoyed on his way to freedom at last. Eventually, the lowered oxygen levels and freezing temperatures caused him to pass out, and he awoke underneath the plane in Madrid hours later before he blacked out again. Staff carried him inside the airport, believing him to be dead, but when he came to again, he was immediately taken to a hospital where he'd spent 52 days recovering. Incredibly, Ramirez suffered no long-term consequences and went on to become a firefighter for 11 years. He said in an interview years later that he believed God put a hand on him and saved him from death, and that his only regret was that his actions inspired others to attempt escape in the same way, and most, if not all, had died trying. In 2014, an unidentified 16-year-old boy from Santa Clara, California, had gotten into a fight with his parents and decided to run away, going so far as to stow away on a jet at the San Jose airport bound for Maui, Hawaii. CCTV footage captured him scaling a fence before sneaking onto the Hawaiian Airlines aircraft. He claimed to have lost consciousness during the 5-hour flight, but actually came to as the plane was making its initial descent, and after landing was seen by staff staggering around the plane where it had parked. Besides seeming dazed and woozy, he appeared to be perfectly fine. No charges were placed against him, but he was turned over to Child Protective Services and placed with a family in Maui until more could be discovered about why he had run away. In a later interview, he cautioned other runaways against following in his footsteps, as he now understands that his survival was a rare thing and others might not be so lucky. Could you imagine your 16-year-old kid getting into a fight with you, running away, and then stowing away on a plane and surviving something like that? That's nuts. The next one happened in 2002, and it was a guy named Victor Alvarez Molina. He was a 22-year-old Havana airport employee, and his motives for fleeing Cuba are unclear, but he was clearly desperate enough to brave stowing away inside the landing gear of an airplane bound for Montreal, Canada. With only a thin windbreaker, Molina was severely unprepared for the negative 55 degrees Celsius he would experience in the belly of the aircraft. He curled up next to a leaky heat pipe and clutched a photo of his daughter praying for asylum. Only 2 years earlier, a stowaway had survived a flight from the same airport in Havana to Paris, France, only to be deported back when the plane had landed. When Molina touched the ground again in Montreal, exhausted and hypothermic, he knew he was one of the lucky few, and his luck persisted further in that he was granted refugee status by the Canadian government. As of 2015, he is still living in Montreal as an auto repairman, but has still not been reunited with his wife and daughter, who are still in Havana. So I still have no idea how these people survive at such low temperatures and no oxygen, and pretty much all of them are in the wheel well of the aircraft that is not pressurized and has no heat. If you know how that happens, let me know in the comments. But I wanted to share these with you because they're absolutely insane. But I hope this doesn't inspire anyone who's watching this to even think that this is possible. The majority of people are dying attempting this, so don't try it. Don't try it on my plane or any others. It's not going to work out well for you, I promise. Thanks for watching this video. And if you want to hear more stories like these, like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.